A dashboard, in simple terms, is a visual representation of key performance indicators, or what you may call key business metrics, and any other complex data that you may want to show on a dashboard in an easy to understand method. Okay. Now, there are three basic types of dashboards that any of your reports may fall under. Okay. The first one is called the operational dashboards. The second one is the analytical dashboard. The last one might be a strategic one. And this one tracks performance in relation to your key performance indicators that we talked about at the beginning. You get the idea? To better align actions with strategy. Okay. If you're looking for a dashboard to share to the entire organization, just as an example, creating a strategic dashboard is the choice that you may take. Okay. I believe this one sets ground for what we are actually headed for. In case you have anything that you'd like to ask or get clarification on, I'll pick time and go over to the chat and pick all your concerns right there. Let me hope that everyone understood the three basic types of dashboards: operational, analytical, and strategic. And again, we also defined what a dashboard is. And now we should be heading over to Microsoft Excel and design this particular dashboard that you're seeing on your screen. Let me hope that this is clear to everyone. You may be tempted to move over to the comments and check through if we have any comment that is unique that we may want to answer, and then we proceed. Okay. Let me check, as if this one says, Philip Bashir, please, how can I link to my computer? I didn't understand this. How do you link to your computer? I believe maybe that question will be answered as we move forward. Let me check here. Kimbo or David, you're saying we are set to go, sir. That's fantastic. This is Chevy Daniel XP. You're just greeting everyone here. We do greet you as well. Javera Akanjuna, I think you are confirming previously that we are loud and clear. Okay. Now, that out of the way, let me actually exit this particular presentation and head over to my desktop, pick up the file that I actually shared with you. Once you grab that file, then we head over to the technical bit of starting out this particular report. Okay. Let me just go ahead and open my file. I believe this is the file I did share with you. And this is just a screenshot that I took. So this is not the actual dashboard. You can see this is a floating object. It's just a screenshot that I took. So everything that's going to be watched up today, we are going to be picking inspiration from this particular screenshot that we have here and make out our own report. Now let us go through the raw data that we need to use. This is the raw data that has been presented to us. And remember, in my classes, I always ask you to understand the data before you actually start working out any project. Okay. If you do not understand the data that you're working with, it doesn't really make sense for you launching into starting developing up the reports. That will not make sense to me. Okay. We go through all the columns and look at the data, find out if we have any gaps. For example, when I click in the drop down here, you can see I do not have any blanks. I come over to this column, no blanks. Come over to this column and double check. Sometimes when you find blanks, you have to go in and clean those missing gaps. This is not a data cleaning class. I believe this data is relatively clean and ready to go. We shall also come here and show you practically how you can clean up your data sets before you actually start the analysis. But this data, from where it's coming from, it has been cleaned and we are ready to move. Okay. So you can see we have the countries here. We have the sales reps, people who are doing the sales for us. We have the products that we are dealing in, the customer themselves, the gender for our customers, the sales channel that they use to deliver these sales, and also the sales value. You can have as many columns as you can, but these are the few that we have for this smaller data set. And to me, I'm looking at this as sales data. So whenever you're given data that you need to interpret and report, Maybe it's not your own data, it's coming from an external source, and maybe you've been contracted as, a consultant to do a report for them. The one key thing that you need to do is to understand the data, how it is structured, and what are the key areas that the customer wants you to report about. Okay, what is the motive of you working out that report? But of course, we shall go basic here, show you some few things that you need, and again, we leave that creativity to you. Whenever you're provided or you're given a chance to work out a dashboard report, you have to come out creative and make sure that you're looking at the key performance areas. Okay, now having understood the data set, let's start our setup. The first thing that I will do, I'll create another worksheet here. I'll just add another worksheet. Let me call this one dashboard. And the first thing that I will do, this is where my dashboard is gonna live. So what I will do is to make sure that I set up this area in a way that works as, like a background, what we saw here in this finished product here, and then lay out the entire chart area where I'm gonna be plotting my data, and then start doing the analysis. That's how I like to approach this project. But again, you can start from wherever you want. You can start with the analysis, if that's the choice, and later set up your dashboard area and you start bringing in your visuals, okay? But let us first set up the chart area or the blank canvas here. What I'll do is to head over to the fill color here. Let me hope that my cursor is visible to everyone. I tried to make it colorful so that you can see. Let me know in the comments if the cursor is able to be seen wherever I'm moving it. Sometimes it is a challenge to someone who might have issues with their eyes. So please confirm before we proceed, because we are moving to the most critical parts, and I don't want members to miss. So let me know in the comments if the cursor is visible enough. If it isn't, then I can come here and activate my cursor highlighter one more time so that they can move together. I believe this is fine. So Collins, this is, I think, Collins Mutinda. This is Collins Mutinda. Yep, Virunji, your cursor is visible. That's fantastic. So someone has confirmed. Right, now let's move forward. I'll come back here and give or choose a background color for my dashboard area. So let's pick one here that really makes sense to you. We shall go with a gray color. I'll just highlight this entire area or grid and come here and give it a background color to make sure that I'm hiding the entire grid lines, or I can actually go ahead and come over to the view tab and turn off the grid lines as well. That's optional. It's something you can do, but make sure that you have something like this, which looks like a background for your dashboard. Now we need to start working out the layout. What I did actually mention in the previous class is whenever you're coming up with a dashboard report, make sure that you have a sketch map somewhere. We call it or is it a sketch map or a sketch anyway? Have a sketch that is hand drawn. Where do you want to place what? Are we together? So it really helps you, because if you come here from point blank, there's nowhere you can start from. You don't know which one, which chart is supposed to be sitting in which area. It delays your planning for the report. If you come up with a hand drawn kind of plan for your reports, then it becomes easy because you already have that inspiration in your brain. Your brain is telling you which type of chart you'd like to come up with, which type of visuals, which type of report. Get the idea. So sometimes draw it somewhere and make sure whenever you come here, you already have something. Like we already do have our plan here that we want to follow. So let us do that. And come back here and let us introduce some shapes here just to give us a little bit of designing here. I'll come to the shapes and let us pick one here, which I'll actually format. So this will actually carry or occupy, or we shall use it to showcase our key performance indicators here, and also our dashboard report title or heading. including maybe our company logo and so on and so forth. So make sure you bring it here clearly. If these corners are too sharp for you, you can reduce using this particular yellow icon that you're seeing there. Make sure that it fits entirely the entire blank canvas. And what I will do is to change its fill color. What I'll do, I'll give it white. And for the outline, I'll say no outline. And what I can do here is to come back and give it a little bit of shadow. So I'll come back to the format or shape format. And under the shape effects here, I'll just pick the shadow option. Let's give it a little bit of a shadow here and see what happens. So this gives us, clear um, visual here that distinguishes or separates between the different parts of our report. And this is good to go. So what I will do to make sure that I cover all these other areas where we're going to be plotting our data, I can come and duplicate this. So I'll just press Shift Control on the keyboard and create a copy. So this copy here, I reduce the size, and let me check. Let me make sure that this is touching the edges here. So this area, I'm going to be putting here my slicers. So I'll make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to be putting here my slicers for interactivity. Yes. Let me reduce the edges there. And we also need another box that will host this particular chart that you're seeing here. So let us duplicate from here, holding Control Shift. I'll create a copy, and this one I'll reduce it because it will have our chart that compares each individual sales rep. Okay, we are trying to set up things before we actually start doing the analysis. Okay, so that later on when we work out our reports, it's very easy for us to build this particular report. Okay, now I'll actually go back and check from the finished product. I'll check this particular areas. What else do we need to add here? So let us create all these steps in one go. I'll just duplicate one more time. This will have our sales by country. I can reduce it and also make another copy here. This will also have or host our report. Make sure that you're laying out your design properly before you actually start doing the analysis. So that will work. This one will host our sales by gender. Now, what I can do is to also create these other areas here or blocks. So I'll come back here, duplicate this one and bring it right here and reduce the size because this is gonna host a very small chart right there. Maybe I can actually reduce the size and bring it right there. And now let us duplicate this. You see, you have to simplify this process in that if you already know what you want to do, this process will become very easy for you. Let me just make sure that this is a little bit bigger. And let me duplicate this upper one here and bring it down right there. So let me reduce this. Make sure that you're laying your areas properly, and I'll reduce this to make sure that we are uniform. So I believe this is a canvas which we can actually start working with. Now, one thing that I will do is I'll go back, the insert tab here. Let us bring in our title. So I'll insert a text box here. I believe everyone is following. If you actually grabbed the file that we are using for this particular training, please let us know whether you're following properly. Or if you get lost along the way, don't worry. This particular recording will be available for you to go in and practice later on. So I'll call this one Open Training Camp Sales Dashboard. Sales Dashboard. I believe that's the title. Let me just confirm. That should be the title. And let me make sure that this title is bold enough. I'll change the font style to something bold, and also increase on the font size to something like 24. I believe this is fine. And let's remove or turn off the background. Under the format here, the shape fill, we turn it off. The shape outline, we turn it off for our text box. Now we have to change this particular font color, and I'll go back to the home tab here and change the font color to my color. My favorite color is this one right there, purple. Okay. Now let's also duplicate or create another shape here. I'll just insert it from scratch. Come here and draw another shape here. So here we're going to be showing our total sales. I believe you show the total sales up here and also the number of transactions. So I'm going to be showing them here. So let me create that area as well. And I'll come back here on the shape format. The shape fill, I'll just make it white, no outline. And for the shape effects, let us give it a bit of a shadow. This is just an issue of preference, please. If you don't like these shadows that I'm adding, please, it's all up to you not to use them. Make sure that you have something pleasing to your bosses or the people that you're presenting these reports to. Not that fancy, but something that is presentable. All right, so make sure that you do not go crazy in terms of the designs, okay? So this one will host our total sales amount. Now what I will do, I'll go back to illustrations and introduce a text box here for our titles. So this one right there will be the total sales. And let me check the font. We shall change the font style here to something like this. You can choose your font styles. Remember, I keep talking about the ISO standards. So if you already have, or if you're already maintaining ISO standards at your organization, please make sure that you're following the organizational colors. Do not deviate from that, otherwise your reports will not be authentic. All right, so let's move forward and format this particular title here. And let me just duplicate. I create another copy, and this one will be the number of transactions. Number of transactions. This seems to be long enough, so maybe that's okay. Now what I'll do is to align this particular text on the top here. And one more thing that I will do is to bring in these particular icons that you're seeing here and make sure that I have all my headings, and then I move over to the analysis part. Let us do that very fast. I'll make sure that this text aligns properly, like so. Make sure you're using your shortcuts that we did teach you for those people who have been in our courses. Now, I'll go back to illustrations here, just a moment, and bring in my icons. For people who are running, I think 2016 and above, you have this particular icons. This is a library that Microsoft provides for you to actually enhance your visions. These are called stock images. So always come here. It requires that you're on the internet and you can pick any images of your choice. I'll go with the house. Let me search for the house. I want to use this as a logo. So I'll pick this one here. I also want to pick the icon that relates to money. So I'll punch in here money and hit enter. So I can pick from these ones. Where is the money icon? I believe this one will work for us. And the other icon for the number of transactions, we can go with anything here that resembles something like addition or tallying or something of that nature. But let us pick something like this, which we have on the other particular finished dashboard. I'll insert all of them at once, and they are right here. Now what I can do, let me check. Are they the ones we have? Yes. So I'll come back here, change the size. I can actually separate them and reduce the size. If you want to do this automatically, you can come back here and change the height and the width in one go. Yes, if you know the size that you're interested in, you can do this from here. But I like to go manual because this I'm doing it just for the title. I'll just place this one here. and I'll change the color. I'll go back to the graphics format and graphics field color. I'll make sure that I'm consistent with the title. That's done. Let me pick my money icon here, reduce the size like so. And sorry, I'm grabbing something else here. Let me just drag it right here. And I will actually lock these particular shapes so that they don't move. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. Now let us also copy this particular text box for our titles here. This will be sales by country. Make sure that it's bold enough. And maybe we can change the font to some type like this, sales by country. Can also duplicate this and create the header for this particular area. This will be sales by gender. And maybe we can also change the font color so that we are consistent. Let's do that so that we are consistent. And let's also create all the titles. This sales by product, sales trend, monthly sales trend, and then sales by customer segment. Let's do that as well. The first, sales by customer segment. And we duplicate this one more time. So this one will be sales by, this is monthly sales trend. And in here, we shall have our, let me check, sales by product. So those are the visuals that we want to bring onto our dashboard. But how do we do that? And this will be our area for the slicers. So I believe we have set up our canvas properly. Maybe what I can do is to make sure that these are consistent in the format as well. Graphics format, make sure that the color blends clearly with the entire design that you have. This one is misbehaving. To grab it, graphics format, come over to graphics field and give it the same color. So, all right, so that's a wonderful step that we have taken, setting up our blank canvas. Now, what we need to do is to start doing the analysis. But let me check in case we have any comments here. This is Charlie. This is Calvin Carlos. Yes, it's on. You are confirming that my screen came back on. Shove Daniel XP. I will do it after the class. That's perfect. Levion, you're saying not clear, but let me know right now what you're seeing. Let me check someone else here. Musuto Ronald, you're saying it's okay. And this is Ahmed Sheikh Mohammed. You're confirming as well. Maggie Shaki, you're saying it's on. Amon Zagalia, you're saying it's on. That's fantastic. So I believe we have set up our canvas, and you saw the steps that we took. They are not quite hard. These are doable, even if you're a beginner. These steps are doable. I'll just come back here and make sure that my titles are also bold. Now let us create another worksheet here, which I will call analysis, so that we can start analyzing and bringing in our numbers onto the dashboard. But this is a crucial step that you need to take, setting up your blank canvas and then bring in your visuals. Let us do the analysis. The first thing that I'll do is to go back to the raw data, and this is already a table. I can confirm that. This is a table. When I actually click in the table, I can see the table design, contextual tab showing here. Now what I can do is to summarize with the pivot table. I'll use pivot tables so much to do this particular analysis. So let us summarize with the pivot table, and I'll create my report on an existing worksheet right here, and let us use the analysis worksheet. The first pivot table report that I want to create here, let me just place it right here, and there you go. You can see our pivot table fields pane here will open. Now we are good to start designing or creating our report. This is by default giving us pivot table 1, but we can actually change this by coming back here to the pivot table analyze, and let us give it a name. I'll call this one total sales. So I want to create a report that will give me the total sales. This is the report that I want to build here. And how do I get that? I'll actually drag the sales value into the values field here. And this will give me the total sales. And I can implement some formatting here. Let's do that. Right mouse click, number format. And let me for now give it 1,000 separators and no decimal places, and change the title here to total. Let me just call it sales amount. Let me just call it sales amount and enter. So this is a pivot table report that is giving us a block figure for the total sales. But again, the number looks a little bit huge for us to bring it onto the dashboard. Let me check what we have in our finished products here. You can see the total sales is showing in billions. So how do we implement that format to make sure that our number shows in billions? There's a workaround for that. Let me just zoom in a little bit so that you can see the reports that we are working out. So this is the number, but of course, this number being so huge that when you actually bring it onto the dashboard, it might, confuse. Assuming that these are the numbers that you had for your bar chart, it really becomes hard for you to show them when you activate data labels. So the best method is to make sure that you change the format. So let us do that. I'll come in here and right mouse click, number format. Let us do a custom format for this. I'll come in here and create a condition. So the condition here is, I'll open square brackets. The condition is, if the number is greater than or equals to a billion, okay, so I'll punch in here a billion. I believe those are 9 zeros. So I'll just do 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you're greater than or equals to a billion, which format do you want to show? We are just creating a condition for our numbers. Which format do you want to show? I want to show my number in billions. So I'll say hash dot 0. Maybe it could be 1.2 billion, 3 or 26.3 billion. So you do hash dot 0 and then you put in the 3 commas here and you open quotes and punch in a B for billion, like so. Then you say full colon and you open another condition, because when you filter this particular value, it might not turn out to be in billions. Sometimes it might be in millions. So we also open another condition here. We say if you're less than or equals to this will be 100 million, I think. Or we can say 99 million 999, like so. And then we say if you're within that particular number, please show us in millions. I'll say hash dot 0, open double quotes, put in the millions here, capital M, and close the double quotes. I believe this number will be able to format. Let me just confirm that the placeholders here. Is this in millions? Yes, these are 3 and these are 3 as well. Let me just confirm. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're supposed to be 9. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, that's the number for the millions. I believe this format will be able to work. I'll say okay, and there you go. You can see this number has now been shortened to show in billions. And how do we bring it onto our dashboard? We can actually do or refer to this particular value outside here, because when we try to do text box, kind of connection here, that particular connection hates working with the get pivot data function. That get pivot data that you get here, if I say equals and point over to this particular cell address inside the pivot table report, you see we get the get pivot data function. So this one will not work properly with our text box that we want to connect this value to. So what we do, we shall say equals, and then we say B4, because B4 is the value that is holding, is the cell address that is holding that value. But again, you can also do that particular simple cell reference there. So let us head over to our dashboard and create another text box here, or duplicate this one here. I'll just duplicate it and reduce the size and remove the text that we have here. The text box selected, I'll head over to the formula bar and I say equals. I move over to the analysis worksheet and I punch in here B4 is the cell address I'm interested in, and hit enter key on the keyboard. There you go. Can see 26.2 billion showing on my dashboard. What I can do is to do the number format here. I'll increase the font size, make it centered as well, change the font style to something that really makes sense to you. Let us increase the size to something like 32 there. I believe that number is visible enough. Feel free to, align it properly. Make sure that it's aligned with this particular text here so that it sits in the middle. Are we together? Later on, we shall group all these objects so that they don't move. All right, let's actually duplicate this particular number for our number of transactions. We are just duplicating this number for our number of transactions. I come over to the analysis. I'll just duplicate this report. I copy and bring or generate another report here. Instead of showing, let me go back to our field list here. Instead of showing this one as a summation, I'll change it here under field value settings to a count and say okay. Of course, this will give me 0.0 million. That's the format that we had done a few minutes back. So what I will do to make sure that this format is removed, I will right mouse click number format, and then I come over to the number group of tools. To the number format here, 1000 separator, no decimal places, because this is a very little number, a very small number. I don't want to show it in millions or in billions or in trillions, no? So I'll just refer to this on the dashboard as well. So I change, this is B4, and I can see this is now B9, and I call this one transactions. Make sure that you're naming your objects. I'll show you why you need to name your objects when it comes to creating the slicers. If you haven't named your objects properly, you may end up slicing a report that you don't, or maybe you do not intend to slice. Okay. So this is a pivot table report that we have called transactions. Let me just confirm that here. Transactions. That's the pivot table name. This one we called it, I believe we called this one total sales. Okay. Let us bring this one on the dashboard. I'll say B9 and enter. This one will give us the number. Now to replicate this format, I'll just tap on this text box. On the home tab, I just double tap on the format painter. And what I will do is to move over with my format painter right to this text box. And there you go. You can see the format has replicated in just a click. And that's how you remain consistent with your numbers. Make sure that the titles, the numbers that you choose, you're consistent with your design, okay? We are good to go. Let's move back to the analysis. Which chart do we want to bring on the dashboard? Maybe what we can do, before we do that, let us create the slicers here for these reports. To double check interactivity, I'll come back to the pivot table, analyze, insert a slicer, and we're going to be slicing our reports based on the year, and we shall also slice based on the month, and we shall also slice our report. We can pick something else, but let us test these two slicers here for the year and the month. I'll test interactivity. I click on 2013. You can see it gives us 8.1 billion. 2014, 8.9 billion. 2015, it gives us 9.1 billion. But again, the challenge is that it's only actually filtering the sales amount or the total sales pivot table. It's not filtering the transactions here. When I tap on 2013, it only filters this report. So we need to do a connection. So how do we do that? When I actually filter January, you can see it only affects this report. Let us do report connection for our slicers. Right mouse click on the slicer, come back to report connections. And these are the pivot table reports that we have so far generated, the total sales and the transactions. So I just place a check mark on the transactions and okay, right mouse click here, report connections. So if you don't see me coming back here to do this, this is how we do it. This is how we connect our slicers with our pivot tables. Okay. Now when I actually slice 2013, you can see 8.1 billion from 317 transactions. I close this one off. 2015, 9.1 billion from 352 transactions. So I can also do 2014 in February, 685.1 million from only 25 transactions. So that's how dynamic our reports will be. Now we are good with our slicers. What I can do is to select all of them, Control X, and bring them onto our dashboard. Control V, these are slicers here. So what I can do is to place them in their positions. We said that our slicers will sit in this area. Okay. We shall come back to formatting the slicers at the end when we're actually putting the final touches on our report. We shall come back and format these slicers. But for now, let us continue with our analysis. So which other reports do we need to bring onto our dashboard? Can someone guess? Let us work out this particular report, which will show us the sales amount for each sales rep and also the number of transactions that they managed. Are we together? This is the first chart. Let's move over to our analysis worksheet and duplicate this report, copy, and maybe create the report right here. Remember, in real life, we ask you to generate these reports or to create pivot tables for each. Let me just drag this one down. For each particular pivot table, the rule of thumb is that you create on its own worksheet. But again, in real world, you find that one challenging. That's why you're seeing us creating these reports in one single worksheet. Otherwise, it's not a wise idea. Sometimes when the pivot tables grow, they will actually collide with each other. So if this pivot table grew with so many other rows here, it will collide with this one and you'll have errors on your dashboard. So sometimes it's advisable each individual report to make sure that in the future you do not get errors, create it on its own worksheet. But again, in real world, I find it challenging. That's why I've been creating these reports from here. All right, let us bring back our pivot table fields here and generate the report that will give us this particular chart here that you're seeing. So let us do that. I will actually maintain the sales value. And what I'll do is to drag in the sales rep into the rows. And there you go. You can see the report starts to format. Sorry, is starting to take shape. And what I'll do, I'll also bring in this sales value one more time. And for this one, we shall change it to a count. And there you go. You can see we have the sales rep name, which I'll actually change, sales reps. And this one will be the amount for each sales rep. And these are the transactions. So I'll call this one transactions. And there you go. Let's make sure that our report has a proper name. So I'll just click in the report, come back here to the pivot table analyze. And this report will be, I think, for our column chart. Is it a column chart or a bar chart? Can someone tell us in the comment section? So what is this chart called here? we want to bring in this particular chart. So how can we name this particular table here? Find something very fast. So I'll call this one the bar chart. Let me just call it bar chart sales reps, so that I can know that this report is just for sales reps for each individual sales rep, the amount and the transactions that they managed. Because I'm going to be plotting this on a chart, I do not need my grand totals, so I'll turn these ones off. I'll come back to the pivot table analyze design tab here, and for the grand totals I'll just say off for rows and columns, so that I can only maintain the numbers. And now highlight this entire report, come back to the insert tab, and let us use a pivot chart for this. And the option that we need to pick here, let's do, because we want to have both the line and the bars themselves, sorry, the columns. What I'll do, I'll come over to the last option here, and I choose the first one will be a clustered column, and for the transactions, we shall show it as a line chart. So I'll pick from the designs here. Let's go with this one. And then I say, okay. So this chart will show up here. So what we need to do is to format this chart, our desired design, and then cut it off and bring it onto the dashboard. Are we together? Let us do that. I'll just get rid of the value or hide all the filled buttons on the chart. And I'll make sure that this legend here, I'll just click on format legend and show it on the bottom. We do the designing from here, and then we cut it and take it the other side. So the other thing that I will do for this particular visual here, I will right mouse click on any of the bars here or the columns, and let us decrease the gap width here to some value of your choice. You can test which value you want these bars to show. I can go with 69 and also change the color. Let's do that as well. I'll come back here to the fill color and give it a solid one. And you know, our color that we have used for this entire design is purple. So I'll go for this purple color right there. And what else do we need to do here? Let us format our line so that it shows exactly like it is on our finished product here. So I'll come back to the analysis worksheet, click on the line, right mouse click, format data series. Let's work out this line color. So the line color will be a solid one, and let us pick a red one here. This one shines. And we also need to add the markers. So let us click on the marker options here and use the built-in, and we want a rounded corner. All right. Now for the fill here for our markers, let us do a solid fill as well. And that solid fill will be white. Let us go with white. And let me check for the border. I think for the border, it will be a solid one as well. And let us do red. Okay. Now let us just click anywhere to see what we are getting. This is the effect that we are getting. I just click on the line one more time and come back on the line options, on the marker options here, and see what else can I change here. Maybe if the size is too small for the marker, you can actually grow the size here. Let's make it 6. And I believe that's what we want. Okay. So what I can do is to reduce this particular size of the chart. Or maybe before we do that, let us turn on the data labels. So I'll just come here and turn on the data labels for both the line and also the columns or the bars. So what I'll do is just right mouse click on one of the labels, and for our columns or the bars, let us show inside end. And for the font color, we shall change that one to white. I believe that one pops out. And for our numbers on our line, we shall right mouse click, format data labels, and let us bring them above like so. So I believe you're learning how to format your charts. This This is how we do the formatting. You need to master how to do that. Let us also get rid of the grid lines here. If you want to come into the world of creating visuals, both here in Excel and Power BI, you have to learn how to format your charts. So I believe this one looks fine, but again, we don't need these numbers because we have activated the data labels. We don't need these numbers. We have to find a way of hiding these numbers. But right now, if I try to delete this particular number here, you see what happens? The line will drop down and I will lose the format. I just Control Z. So I have to find a way of hiding these numbers because it's the one that is giving us the effect for this particular line. But for now, let us copy this particular chart or visual X and bring it onto the dashboard and finish it from here. We shall finish all the settings from here that we may need. All right. I believe this makes sense to all of us. Now I make sure that it fits into our canvas here. And the other thing that I will do is to make sure that it fits entirely into the blank canvas. Make sure you do that. And what I will do is to come over to the format and make sure that we do not have the shape fill and we do not have the outline as well. So what that one does is that it lets your chart blend into the blank canvas that you had previously. Now what I will do to hide these numbers, let us make sure that we give the font style or the font color that resembles the background. So I'll come back to the home tab and change this to white. I believe that one will hide our numbers. So make sure that the font color you choose for these numbers, if you want to hide them, is exactly the color for your shape that you had initially. Okay, I believe that is fine. So I'll change this one to white. And what I can do is to expand a little bit here so that our chart grows a little bit. Feel free to grow it even if it goes outside because it's actually not showing. But make sure that your numbers stay inside the white canvas here. All right, I believe this is fine. So what I can do, I can test my slicers here. 2013, it filters properly. 2014, it filters properly. All these numbers are dynamic. I believe we are moving in the right direction. Now let's go back to the analysis and bring in another chart. So what do we need to bring at this moment? Let us do the sales by country. I'll come back and copy this particular report and paste it somewhere here. Make sure that you're creating a huge gap between these reports because we are actually creating all the analysis on one worksheet. Create a huge gap between the reports to give space in case you slice and the report grows. All right, so let's go back to our field list here. And our report we want to generate is for sales by country. So what I'll do is to remove the sales rep here and also remove the transactions. We're only interested in the numbers for the sales. I'll do country, drag it into the rows like so. So I have a list of countries here: Burundi, DRC, Kenya, Rwanda, and so on and so forth. I can actually decide to sort these numbers, whichever case you may want to work out. But again, our interest is to showcase these numbers on a map. Are we together? Let's do that. I will highlight this entire report and try to insert a map here for our pivot table report and see if it actually works. So I'll come back to the Insert tab, Pivot Chart, and go for a map. Let us do that. I click on the map. Oh, this is an error that I'm getting. You can't create this chart type with data inside a pivot table. So whenever you're creating a map chart, you do not have or you don't need your data into a pivot table report. So you need a workaround for that. Please select a different chart type or copy the data outside the pivot table. Let us do that. So what I'll do is to create or mirror this particular data. I'll come back here down. I'll say, maybe I just copy these titles first and place them somewhere here. I'll paste as values. I'll just paste as values. I'm actually showing you in full screen mode to make sure that I get more space because I'm actually using a laptop. If I actually turn on the entire ribbon, it will actually eat into my working space. So that's why I turned on the full screen. In case you're asking yourself, which Excel are you using? There's no changes. It's the same. I'm only working from the full screen mode. Okay. So I'll just copy or mirror this particular data outside. Let me just create a field or a background here for our report. And what I'll do, I'll say equals, and I'll say equals to this particular cell address and enter. Now I will drag this to the sides like so, and also down like so until I get to Uganda, I think. Right there. So these numbers are not showing properly. What I'll do, I'll actually highlight, go back to the home tab, number format, and let us change this one to the custom format that we created right there. There you go. Now we have a similar table that looks like this. This one can allow us, but again, this is just mirroring from this particular table. Why we do that is because when we actually go to our slicer here, let me just do 2014, and I come back to my analysis, I want these numbers to update like you can see. You get the idea? If you actually maybe copy the values themselves and you slice, then this number or this pivot table will not update with your values on the map. So make sure that you put that into consideration. I'll X this one out and highlight this entire range, come back to the insert, and let us do a map chart here. This map chart is automatic. You have to give it a little bit of time to generate, and it will show you the map for all the countries that you may have in your data. If you have countries from Africa, it will show you the African continent. If you have your countries mixed up, it will still show you. It has the entire map, and this is just connecting to the Bing. I believe we all know this particular browser from Microsoft, Bing. So that's the connection, and that's where we are picking the live map that we are showcasing here. Okay, let us format this chart. I'll just get rid of the chart title. Sorry, I just deleted the entire chart. Get rid of the chart title. Why are doing that? And what else do we need to do here? Maybe to read this particular map, in case you're not familiar with map charts, whenever you're seeing, this is the guide that we have here for our numbers. So whenever you're seeing a thick color, that's where we are doing the most sales. Are we together? And as it comes down here to lighter blue, that's where we are doing the least sales. So I believe this particular country here, which is Sudan, it's where we are doing the most sales. You can see 4.1 billion something. And that's why you can see on the map, it's actually dark. And the lighter it is, the lower the sales. The darker it is, the darker the map or the country is, the more the sales. I believe that is very easy for you. You might ask yourself, why are we showing the map? That's the reason. We can format this legend. Maybe we can say put it on the top right there. Can say put it on the bottom. Depends on where you want this particular um, legend to show. But again, let us just leave it. Maybe we can do top. And let us also resize and cut this one, X, and take it over to our dashboard report. Control V. I believe, members, you're following. And when you bring it right here, you'll just insert it into your blank canvas here and also try to format it to give it that final touch. What I'll do, I'll right mouse click on the legend, and maybe I can turn off this option here, but this one will still overlap. So let me just leave it on and show it on the left like so. I believe this one makes sense. I don't know what you think. Does this one make sense to you? So what we can do for this particular chart, we can also go back to the format here and make sure the shape fill is removed. The shape outline is also removed. Okay. And there you go. our dashboard report is starting to take shape. Remember, we are replicating what you're seeing here. Now let us do the sales by gender. This should be very easy. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this report. You see how important the pivot tables are? Just to give you that interactivity for your dashboards. So I'll come back to the field list here, and we are doing by gender. I'll just remove the country and bring in the gender into the rows. So this is how we performed gender wise. And what I can do, I can also showcase the totals for this, because I may want to showcase the totals in the middle of my donut chart hole. So let us reinstate the totals here. I'll just say grand totals on for rows and columns. Okay. Now what I can do for this one, let me check if I can actually achieve a donut chart here. Let me do equals. I point over to this cell address, copy to the right, and done. Okay. What I can do is to implement a format for these numbers here. Let me just do a custom that we have just done a few minutes back. And there you go. Now, when I highlight this one and come over to the insert tab, I can actually insert a donut chart for this. And why I need these totals, I may want to showcase them into the donut chart hole here. But again, it's all up to you. I just get rid of the title. And let me also right mouse click on the hole on the chart and the donut size hole. I reduce this one here. Are we together? Let us reduce this one to the one that you think fits your liking. And what I can do, also increase on the font size here. Maybe this one we can cut X and take it on the dashboard and then finish the formatting from here, because this we want to be realistic to ourselves here. So I want sales by gender plotted right here. So what I will do for this chart, I'll just reduce the size, and let me just get rid of the background color or fill and the outline as well. I did explain why we do that all the time. It's because we want the background to rhyme properly with your chart. And let me just increase this one. Make sure that you're consistent with your size of the text that you're having here. If for the titles you're using size 11 Calibri or whichever font style you're using, make sure that you maintain that. For the labels, make sure you're doing the same. For the legend, make sure you're doing the same so that there's consistency. Now, we can actually leave it the way it is, but of course we want to be consistent with the entire design that we chose. I'll just format a little bit here for the color. So for the fill color, let me just bring this format cells down here. So for the color, we shall go solid. And let us do, for the bigger one, let us do purple, like so. And I'll go back and select the smaller one. So for the smaller one, I will actually go with a lighter one, solid, but again, I can go with this one here. Pick whatever works for you, but I think you pick the idea. And because I want the total numbers here, I'll just create another text box. Or let me just activate the data labels here so that we can see the numbers as well. Let me just format the numbers. Maybe I can increase on the size. So this one calls for increasing on the donut size hole so that our numbers can show properly, like so. And let me just click on the labels and change the color, make it bold a little bit so we can see the numbers. And maybe what I can do is to bring in a text box here and link our total as well. Let me go to illustrations, text box, bring in our number here. This is all up to you. Feel free to do whatever you want. I'll just come back to the formula bar. Say equals, I move over to the analysis and pick my number right here. This is C52. So I'll say C52 and enter on the keyboard. This number will show. I can increase on the font size, whatever you may want to do. It's all up to you. Make sure it is centered. Designing is not that easy, but you have to try your level best. Okay, let me bold this one and give it a consistent color with what we had previously right here. Okay, and let me get rid of the text shape fill here and also the outline. Okay, so that it blends, and I can carry this one. Now, the other thing that I like to do is to make sure that these shapes are grouped. So what I'll do is to select all of them and group them together so that they don't. But again, we shall do that later. Let us first finish our analysis. So the last three charts that I want to bring on here and also format our slicers is the sales by product, the monthly sales trend, and also the sales by customer segment. Let us do that. Let's do those reports. I'll just copy this report. Let me just copy something that do not have totals. Copy, scroll a little bit down, and Control V. Now for this one, we want sales by. Let me just activate my pivot table fields. What we want here is, let me look at the finished product, sales by product. Okay, let me just remove the country and drag in my product like so. And you can see the numbers here. They are quite, close to each other. So what I can do, can highlight this entire table. I don't know whether I have named these tables properly, but again, we can go back and rename all our reports. We saw why we actually need to do that. Come back to the insert, pivot chart. And for this one, we shall do a bar chart. And this first one will do it for us. And let us format this one together very fast. Hide all field buttons on the chart. Members, if you're actually enjoying the chart, the class, make sure that you're sharing, you're liking, and you're actually commenting. I want to go there and read all your comments so far. So what I will do for this one, I remove these numbers. We're going to be activating the data labels. Let us do that. I do data labels. And for this one, I want to be consistent with my chart. I don't want to use a lot of colors. Make sure that you actually use at least 3 colors consistently. So let me choose this one here. It will do it for me. And for the labels, I'll just do around 11 there and maybe bold. I believe this one is fine. I can also do, let me just do the gap width here. I can reduce it to around 67, 69 there and reduce this one, X, Control X to bring it onto the dashboard. Control V, and once it comes in here, feel free to resize it. I believe these things are not hard. If you're following closely, these things should really play out nicely for you. So make sure you can resize your chart and place it properly. And come back here onto the format and the shape fill, you remove it. The shape outline, you remove it. I did explain why we do that all the time. Okay, so this one looks to be nice to me. It's the same chart that we want here, sales by segment or customer segment. So let us do that as well. I'll copy this particular report and paste right there and change this one to customer. So I'll just remove the product and I do customer. So our customers come from banking sectors, electronics, healthcare, retail, and telecom. That's where they come from. We want to see how they are faring visually on the chart. Of course, the numbers are here. They are quite close. We can't easily see which one is topping up this list. banking, electronics, which one do you think is bigger? It's not easy to tell from here, but when we actually insert a chart, it will be easy for you to tell which one is bigger or is bringing in more revenue than the other one. So right here, it is very easy to tell with your naked eyes. Even if you don't look at the numbers, you'll just know that maybe electronics is bringing in the most by just using my naked eyes. I don't know what you're seeing on your side. Please let us know in the comments. So we are formatting this chart. I believe everyone now knows how to format. I'll hide all these field buttons. Do the same like we did for the previous chart. And I'll make this one around 67 as well. For the color, I'll do solid, maintain the same color, and I'll turn on the data labels, make these data labels a little bit bigger. So I'll choose font 11 and bold them. Okay. We can actually cut this one, X, and bring it onto the dashboard. Are we following? And make sure that it comes on this area right here. If this area is too small, then we can think of resizing this and give this one a little bit more room, because it might not come out properly. But again, it gives you an idea on how you can do these things. Sometimes you may not be perfect when you're doing a redesign of your own charts, because things may change along the way in terms of how you set up the areas. But let us just add in a little bit of space here to make sure that our chart shines a little bit here. And maybe we can remove the background, the fill color, and the outline, and so we drag it across. We drag it up here so that we can actually get the same size here. We may not get the same size because these shapes here are not the same, but again, you get the idea. We are able to showcase our numbers there. Make sure that these ones are also consistent in terms of the font size. Let us do 10, I think, for all of them. Make sure you are consistent. Whichever format you're working on, you're consistent. Now, let us work out the last one here, and then we can rename our pivot tables and then do the connection for the slicers. Let us do that, members. How do we do the monthly sales trend? It's quite easy. So what I'll do is to copy this report and paste it somewhere here. And what I'll do for this report, I'll plot the month column right here onto the rows. And there you go. I believe this is fine. What we can do is to highlight and come back to the insert. So for this one, which one do we need to insert here? Let me just confirm on our finished product. What we have here is just a trend. We need a line chart. So I'll just come back to the insert tab. And on the charts here, let me pick the line chart of my choice. I'll go with this one here as the option. And let us do the formatting now. Hide all the field buttons. Our total is removed totally. And for the numbers here, I don't know whether we need these numbers. We may not need these numbers, but let me check format axis, and then we can actually increase or decrease the minimum and the maximum numbers. So for the maximum here, or for the minimum, we can maintain 0, but for the maximum here, let's do 4.5, I think. Let me try 4 and see if our line will move a little bit down here. I believe that is fine. So let me get rid of the title and also our numbers here. Can remove them. And in terms of the design for this one here, let me just come back to the design here and pick something that works better for me. I'll just click and expand here. Which one do you think will work fine for us here? Maybe this one. Yeah. We can take this and let us format our line. So I'll do solid red, and for note these lines, just Control Z. My interest is format this line here. Solid, we want a red one. And for the markers, let me just close this one out. So we need to format this chart so that it looks a little bit better. Maybe for the month, because they actually look to be a little bit long on the chart, what we can do is to come back here on the raw data and make sure that we replace this month here very quickly and create the short name instead. So I'll just do H here. For January, I want Jan. I don't know whether it's for January. I want Jan as an abbreviation. There you go. For February, I want Feb. Very fast. I don't know whether this fixes the problem. For March, I'll do MAR. We need 3 characters. Only for April, I'll do APR. APR. And for May, I believe this remains May. And for June, what do we get? JUN. And for July, JUL. I'm just doing this fix, but I don't know whether there's another method. Please let me know in the comment if we have another method of doing this. So this will be AUG for August, September, wherever there is September. I want SEP. Is it SEP or SEP? Right there. October, I want OCT. And for November, I want NOV. And for December, I want, sorry, supposed to be here, December, and I need DC. Replace all, and there you go. Now that we have made the changes in our raw data, when I come back here to our analysis and refresh, I can do refresh all, data, refresh all, just run through the entire pivot table reports that we had, and this is what we have right now. Okay. What I can do is to format these lines here so that we can have our line chart ready. Let me do that. Am I grabbing it? Format data series. And for the markers, I believe we shall do a solid one. That will be white. And for the border, let us do solid one, red. And for the marker options itself, let us go to built-in option, and we shall use the circle and make it a little bit bigger, maybe 6 right there. And the other thing we can do, let me check. Do we have the numbers? The numbers are not showing. Oh, it's not actually red. This one, it's actually supposed to be the color that I like so much. That is purple, I believe. And now we need to change for the marker as well. For the field, it will be remain white. For the border, we shall do purple. And I believe that is fine. Let me hope that this is clear for the design. Can we change this to something else? I'm not sure. But let us do this. I believe this is the format we had previously. So let's maintain the format that we had previously on the original copy that we are using. Do a green circle one, and for the border, let us do purple. For the field, should be solid white, and for the line itself, solid purple right there. So this one is taking shape. I believe we are good. So what I'll do is to X. Maybe this one I can also make it, these labels here for our month, make it consistent to around 10. X or Control X or Control or cutting, and drop it here on the dashboard. And when it comes here, what we need to do is to resize it properly. Feel free to showcase the numbers in case that's what you want to do, but I haven't done so. And what I will do is to get rid of the shape fill and no outline. Okay, so let me confirm whether this makes sense. Yeah, I believe it really it's really coming out properly. Now let us slice these reports and see if it's actually doing so. I believe it does. But now the challenge is that you can see this particular trend here is also getting filtered, which might not look really fine for the entire chart. So what I'll do is to come back to the analysis and rename all our reports. I'll come back here and call this one, I think this one is the trend. This one we called it monthly trend. So I'll make sure that my slicers are not slicing this report. This one we called it sales by customer. Make sure there is no spaces in your names. And this report here we called it sales by product. You see the beauty of making sure that you rename your, this is sales by product, you rename your reports. It really makes sense. And this one, we don't need to do that. This one, we don't need to do that. We are just referring it outside. And for this one here, we shall call it, I think that was already named properly. So now let's go back to our dashboard and we connect our slicers, report connections. Let us see all our pivots here. What we don't want to connect to is the monthly trend. Make sure it's removed. Otherwise, the rest should be able to slice, but the monthly trend should be removed. Okay, right there. Now, when I slice 2013, you can see the trend remains static, but again, I'm able to slice these other reports. Are we there? You see the interactivity now? And this is quite easy to work out. Very easy. Now, one last thing that you need to do, members, is to make sure that your charts or your objects are named properly, sorry, are grouped properly, so that when you actually resize the columns here, they don't move. You can see right now they are moving. If you want to stop that behavior, make sure that you're grouping all of them. I believe you know how to do that. Now, one more last thing that we need to do is to make sure that we format our slicers so that they can actually blend into our design. So what I will do is to click on the slicer, come back here, slicer option here, and what I'll do, I can also create the columns here to make sure that the years are sitting in one single horizontal line right there. And for this one, I'll also increase on the columns, maybe. Yeah, I can do 2 right there, and right mouse click, because I can see we have the previous month that we had that we replaced. They are showing back here in our slicer. So I right mouse click, come back to slicer settings and hide anything that has no data, hide items with no data, like so. And then reduce this particular slicer right there. Now what I need to do is to format. What I'll do is to come back to the slicer option and pick a format that really blends into this particular visual that we're seeing here. I believe this one will work. And this is what we have. I don't know, will this one work properly? Maybe we can change it. If it doesn't, I've already created a custom slicer here. Let me check this one here. This one blends into the white background. And what I can do is to make sure that I turn off the line. Let me just come back here, slicer options, right mouse click, modify. And in here for the format, the border, I say none. I don't want any borders. And I say okay. I just want this one to blend into the white background. And I believe that's what I wanted to achieve. So I'll also right mouse click again and say select here instead of here. I say select year, so that someone knows that they need to select the year, and also hide items with no values right there. And maybe I can bold this one, but again, it is to your preference. So if I want to also make the same format for this second slicer, I can just come back here and choose this slicer that I've created. This is a custom slicer right there. If this one works fine for you, or if you want to maintain this type of, filtering, feel free to maintain whatever you want. But I believe everyone gets the idea. Let me just turn off the line for this one. I'll just duplicate, and for the whole slicer, I'll say no line, and then say okay. So I'll just go back and apply the same. I believe that is the one. I don't know whether it's, I just go back. I think this is the one. Okay. So the line is off, and I also have these buttons show like. So I can also do the same for this. Can come back here and use this option instead. Okay. I believe this is fine. If you have questions, please let me know in the comment. I'll just go there and answer all of them. So this one will be select month. So which other slicer can we add here? Members can let us know. So I just check in the raw data, which column haven't we actually used? Make sure that the columns that you use on your in your analysis, you don't again come back here and use them as slicers. We have done that one for the trend, but you can see we are not slicing based on the month. That's the reason why we did so. Okay. All right. All right. So let me check if we have comments here. And Goy, your screen is very fine. I think that was a few minutes back. Let me just look for newer comments here. Phil, Bashir, it's hard, but need more time. Absolutely. Let me check this one. Taban Oliver, do the grouping too. Yes, you can do the grouping very fast for you. Umbrella briefing. Thanks, Godfrey, for the free knowledge. This is really educative and interesting at the same time. Absolutely. Thank you for the appreciation. Okwang Ambrose. The class is interesting and educative. This calls for more practice and familiarity with Excel too. Yes, practice makes permanent. There's nothing that you will achieve if you're just coming here to see what we are doing. This is Levy, you're saying it's electronics. Yeah, I believe you are still, you are actually observing which particular market is bringing in the most sales. So I missed that comment. Sorry for not showing it at the right time. Eric Galianga, you're saying, yes, we are following. It's doable with practice. Absolutely. This is Emmanuel Evo. It's electric. Absolutely. I think that's the comment that we had to showcase. Kimbo David, the column title must be country, not sales reps. Ooh, which one do we need to fix here? Kimbo David, you're saying that the column title must be country, not sales reps. I don't know where I missed that. But again, feel free to go in and correct whichever mistake that you might look through into the design. All right, all right. So let me hope that this was nice for everyone here. We seem to be coming close to the end of the session. In case we do not have questions, for now we can entertain some questions and then see what we can achieve at the end of this particular session. Otherwise, that's how you can design your simple dashboards inside Microsoft Excel. We shall again come back here. This is a promise. We shall again come back here and design this similar dashboard using Power BI this time. So we shall see how Power BI does this kind of stuff and what could be the difference in there. Would you really need to transform to move over to Power BI, or you may want to think about remaining inside Excel? You shall see the advantages of using Power BI versus using Excel. And I believe at the end of that particular comparison, you'll be able to choose which tool you must be able to maintain at your organization, depending on the size of the organization that you have. Okay. Let me check if we have any questions here. This is Gideon. You're saying this is very excellent. I have learned all the steps. Absolutely. The recording will be available, I believe, at the end of this particular session, and you will be able to go in and practice as many times as you can. Okay, this is Magdalene Ochola. Very good work, sir. Absolutely. Thank you, Ochola. Who else? Who else has a comment here? Firoze Habib, you're still coming back here. Excellent presentation. Absolutely. But again, we shall come back here and do the same particular visuals inside Power BI and see what is the difference. Is Power BI easier to work with? Is Power BI the tool that you should be looking out for? Is Excel shining over Power BI? We shall do that comparison later on. Okay. Thank you for joining us in today's particular class. I'll just give chance to people to say hi. Maybe if you do not have any question, just tell us where you're joining us from. And then we have our 5 minutes to end the session. Okay. Just tell us where you're joining from, and that will really give us comfort. And next time we come back here inside the Power BI, you should be able to follow along. Okay. This is Umbrella Briefing. What are you saying here? Can we have some session on QGIS too? GIS. We are planning on those things, but again, you know, I'm still one man army. So if I outsource some members here to do these other tools, GIS, ArcGIS, that kind of tools there, QuickBooks, and so many other tools. And I know people still need some help on so many tools. But along the way, as we introduce these classes, we shall be letting you know Umbrella Briefing. So thank you very much for the question. QGIS, I know I know the pain that you're going through. But again, practice makes permanent. Umbrella, if you can actually put in more efforts in learning that particular tool and mastering it for your work in GIS, you'll be good to go. All right, all right. So someone here says, this is Gideon. Assuming I have sales by sub-county instead of country, can it work as well? Absolutely. If you have, depending on the data types that you're collecting, if the data point that you have is, you know, by sub-county, by district, by village, you can break down that hierarchical data from country level. It's absolutely very fine. You can do it. So when you're doing your analysis, you can bring it to the level of the village, to the level of the sub-county, to the level of the county, to the level of the country, whichever data point that you might be collecting. Okay. Emmanuel Ivu, right here, you're saying, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Godfrey, today. I was more educated in this class. I think now I can be professional in this particular dashboard designing. All right, I believe that's fantastic. Emmanuel Ivu, thank you for that testimony. Sylvia Onyango, you're coming back again. Very educative. This can be done with more. This is absolutely very easy, whether you're a beginner. However, you need to master some of the things. What is actually forming this entire visual, you have seen, it's entirely understanding pivot tables and understanding how to create charts and format them properly. Once you understand that, it becomes very easy for you to create such amazing reports. We shall be coming back here and bring in more designs, pick inspirations from, you know, the internet, and come back and redo it here together. Again, I believe you'll be able to pick something from the classes that are planned. Taban Oliver, you're saying you're from Kampala, Makerere, kindly requesting you to do the grouping. All right. So, for example, now the challenge that we get, let me do this for Taban Oliver. I believe Taban Oliver, you've already subscribed to our ongoing course that is actually starting on 26th. So let me do the grouping for you, my colleague here. So, for example, if I actually enlarge this particular column here, B, let me do that. You see what happens? All the shapes will move out of their size and position. I'll just Control Z. So if I actually want to make sure that this shape doesn't move, I can actually group these slicers along with this particular shape. Right mouse click, make sure that all of them are highlighted. Come over to group and group everything. Now, for example, if I move this column, if I enlarge this particular column like so, you can see, oh, this one is still moving. So I will highlight this entire shape and come back to the shape or size and properties here and make sure that I activate this option here called, let me just go back here, properties. Make sure that I activate don't move or size with cells. Let me just turn this one on. Now, if I come back here and enlarge column B, this one should not move in its position. I'll just test that right there. You can see these ones are able to move because I haven't done anything on them, but this one is remaining in its position. It's static, even though this particular column was expanded. Are we together? So we can go ahead and do the same for these other visuals here. So if I wanted to group this one, I can do that. I can just reduce a little bit here so that I can grab the background and also the chart. Then right mouse click, group together. And again, what I'll do is to right mouse click on the new grouped object, size and shape, size and properties, sorry. So I come back to properties here and make sure that I turn off or I turn on. Let me just go back. If you get the idea, Tab and Oliver, size and properties here, and inside properties, don't move or size with cells. I don't know why it's grayed out. Let me just redo this. Maybe I can try this one down here. So I'll group this one entirely with this text box, the chart itself, and the background. Group this particular object into one. Right mouse click, size and properties. Don't move or size with cells. Activate on all of these steps. Once you do that, and then you enlarge any of these, you can see the ones that you haven't done the formatting on will move, but the rest will remain in position. Let me hope that Tab and Oliver, this gives you an idea on how to do that. Tab and Oliver, you can confirm in the chat. I believe that was the question that you had. You're from Kampala, Makerere. You're kindly requesting to do the grouping. I've done that. Benon, Benon, this is Benson Kimani. Very informative. Absolutely. Thank you. Kamran Khan, respect Excel Guru. All right. Kamran, you're still here. Thank you very much. I haven't seen you confirming in our training that is coming, that is starting on Monday. And Kamran, you had promised that you're going to be confirming your attendance, but I haven't seen you do that. So Cameron, is there a World Cup of Excel you will win every year? Person yellow, podium blue. I don't know. I'm not sure. But again, when you go to developed countries, those competitions are there. Let me check. Semera Donna, thanks for the session. Taban Oliver. Yes, I got it now. Thank you so much. I believe that's fantastic. And the last comment here, Benson Kimani from Nairobi. Thank you very much. So members, this has been exciting having you in today's particular class. I'm just tempted to end the session, but I can see members are bringing in more questions here. Bisaiku Turawi, can't wait the course start. It will be interesting. Absolutely. Just waiting for you guys. We shall be starting our training on Monday. And tomorrow, make sure that you're here. We are going to be going through some few things that you need to get hold of as our orientation to go through the tool that we use, that is Google Meet. For our free classes, we are always holding them here. But for the paid classes, we take them outside of YouTube, outside of TikTok, and we host them in another platform where you can actually interact with me by unmuting your microphones and speaking with me without, with YouTube Live, you can only do comments. But again, in our class, we shall be able to allow you unmute your microphones, ask the question immediately, raise up your arm. We shall be able to, interact, make sure that you come and ask as many questions as you can. But for our free classes, because the other system also requires some subscription and payment, and for the free classes, I can't sustain that payment for you guys. So, and I'm not asking you money. When I start asking money, people will say, this guy, just trying to scam us, Africans, most of the guys here in Africa have not yet adopted properly the use of technology. So that's why they are always hesitant. So if I start asking you money to bring you these free classes, it might not be possible, so that they're also interactive the other side. That's why I decided to bring them here on YouTube. And I'm sorry for that, by the way. But again, we can discuss in our community. If you want these sessions to be interactive so that you can talk with me live, then can take it the other side, and then you see how you can incentivize and make sure you support the subscription. Okay. Let me come in here and say, Savio Jurugo, is it possible to get the link for the recorded version? Immediately this class ends, the link will be available. The same link that you used to join, just tap on it again. This particular video will replay in real time. You get it? Even right now, you can rewind me, you can go back, you can move forward. That's the beauty of doing YouTube live classes. You can rewind, you can go back, and immediately the class ends, the recording is available for you to replay at your own pace. Okay. And if I'm speaking a little bit faster, you can slow that particular speed in your YouTube system, in your YouTube app, and you slow down if you like, slow motion kind of thing. You can do that as well. All right. So I'm tempted to end the session from here. Kema Cash Solutions mobile money service. What are you saying here? Can we get the link for recorded version? The link that you used to join this particular session is the same link that you can tap on to watch the recorded version. Are we together? Let me hope that that question is answered properly. Now, thank you guys for sticking around. Let's meet tomorrow in our orientation for the course members, and we shall be able to dive into the training on Monday. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.